is Mandy at Tidy Sticky Mama, and today we are doing a seasonal swap for my clothes closet, and we're going to talk a little bit about KonMari. Now, if you don't know what KonMari is, you've probably been living under a rock. It's been the tidying and organizing sensation since about 2015. So it's been there, been very effective. You know, there's a Netflix, there's all kinds of stuff now, but it was something that really and truly was life-changing for me, and it makes me really excited to share about it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that while I do my clothes swap, because if you also do a seasonal clothes swap, it's a great opportunity to start, because you've got to dig out, you've got all your clothes out anyway, you might as well, since that's where you start. Just in case you haven't seen it, this is the book. It's easy to find on Amazon. Your library probably has a copy, and it's probably a lot easier to get a hold of now than it was in 2015. But it's about $10 on Amazon. I think there's also a Kindle and an audiobook version if that's more your jam. Personally, I really like having the print book, because once you read it through and then get started, it's nice to be able to go back and refer to the particular chapter for the category you're working on, like as you're doing it, kind of get it fresh in your mind. The other one is Spark Joy. Now, you don't need Spark Joy, but I would highly recommend it, especially if you find yourself with some questions after you do read Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, because it's kind of a tidying encyclopedia, but less about the process and more detail. Some stories from clients or things that she struggled with, and some ideas of kind of some subcategories of what belongs in each category, which is very helpful, because things like when you get to kimono, which is, you know, pretty much everything in your house that you didn't do already, it can be overwhelming. So it's nice to have that kind of broken down with examples and stuff, and to refer back to when you're doing those particular categories. So I would recommend it. Not necessary, but I still look back at it, you know. So let's do this. Now, there's not going to be much in the way of actual organizing here. I did my KonMari festival back in 2015, 2016, and got rid of quite a lot of stuff then. Since then, I've been hanging my clothes KonMari style. You can see they go from darker and heavier towards lighter, both in color and in texture, with the exception of my skirts and dresses over on the side there because of the quilt rack I have in the bottom. For KonMari, you need to pull everything out and put it in one big pile. If you're doing your festival for the first time, you should pull everything from everywhere all at once and be thorough, because if you forget something, it's an automatic discard under this method. Everything must be touched piece by piece to assess whether it sparks joy and sorted appropriately. Normally with my seasonal swaps, I just pull out what I know needs to get packed up, joy checking as I go, both packing and unpacking, but this time I've emptied my closet so you can see better KonMari in its beginning. I've laid everything out on my bed. In the book, Marie advises using the floor, but in most Western-style homes, the bed is a more convenient surface. I find it to be a more comfortable height, personally, and using your bed also builds in a deadline of finishing before going to sleep that night, which can be helpful if you tend to be a procrastinator. Alright, I sped up my actual sorting here, but it really didn't take me too long, only about 7 minutes for the contents of my closet. It might take you longer doing the method outright rather than these little refreshes I build into my habits, because you're probably starting with more clothes. Don't be afraid to break it down if you need into smaller bits. Do just your tops one day and bottoms the next, dresses another, socks another if need be. It still works. Now, if you encounter things that you're meh about, that you're kind of on the fence of whether or not you should keep it, it really means that you should let it go. It's spark joy, not spark, I guess it's okay, right? So, if you're going to be keeping things, you want to be keeping things that are only truly joyful for you. Now, you may encounter things that you need but don't particularly like a work uniform or you only have one sweater that it's kind of okay, but it's nothing you really like. And there the joy is found in the gratitude, being glad that you have a job to wear a uniform to, or that you have that sweater to keep you warm. Now that the actual sorting is done, I've got two piles. This big pile here is my joy sparking pile, and then this is my discard pile. Now there's not very much there, and that's because I already did my festival 5 years ago. So it's not going to be as impressive as a pile as if you are doing this for the very first time. But even after having done it, you can see that there are still things that will need to get weeded out now and then. And that's because our tastes change, our lives change, and what we need from our clothes changes. And that's part of what's so freeing about KonMari, is that it gives you the permission to walk away from those things that don't have a place in your life anymore. Even if that was your favorite dress 2 years ago, or it was given to you by your very best friend, if it doesn't actually work for your life anymore, it's okay to let it go. But the thing I also really enjoy about it is that it gives you permission to keep things just because you like them. The shirt doesn't fit, but it's your favorite color and you cannot imagine letting it go. That's fine. Keep it. Love it. So I'm going to do basically the same thing with the clothes that I have stored away, and then I'm going to get it all hung up, and I will catch up with you in just a minute. The finished closet admittedly doesn't look very much different because a lot of the pieces are part of my wardrobe year-round. Now when you go to hang things back up, you want it to go from heaviest to the lightest in an upward to the right sort of angle. It's hard to give good tips on that because it's not really a science. It's more a gut feeling on what's heavy versus light. Something might be a darker color but a lighter fabric, so it's a good example of what Marie expresses as asking your house where to put things away, which is a funny way of saying that your stuff has to work with your space. Alright, so that was my little bit of introduction to KonMari and my seasonal clothing swap. The question now is, what next? Well, I'm going to have to fold all those clothes up and put them away. I've got to donate that stuff, no problem. But the thing everybody asks about with KonMari has got to be the folding. How do you fold it in those cute little rectangles? I've got help for that too. Alright guys, we'll see you next time, and I will show you how to fold all of this crap. And this thing right here, honestly probably one of my best hacks ever. This is a quilt rack, but it's my clothes limbo. You know, everybody has, well, a lot of people have that chair in their room, or like the end of the bed collects clothes that you've worn once or twice but are still clean enough to wear again. That's where they go. You see, I've got a couple pairs of pants on there, and the sweatpants you've probably seen me wear in other videos. Love those things. Like I said, spark joy. I also highly recommend it. I like to read through it once in a while just because I'm admittedly weird like that. See you next time, guys.